of you walk the halls at Hempstead High School. None of you sit in the classroom. You have no idea how scary it is.
It is scary walking through Hempstead High School. What are you going to do?
The abysmal conditions in these schools have resulted in the denial of the basic state constitutional guarantee of a sound basic education.
School board meetings out of control, crumbling buildings, overcrowding, broken bathrooms, dirty cafeterias.
Hempstead is a bedroom community. The parents and concerned citizens and taxpayers and so forth seem to be asleep.
The $5.1 million that our auditors have found misappropriated.
It is unheard of. It is unmanageable. When you have a class of 40, now you're talking about 50, close to 60.
An abysmal 37% graduation rate, less than half the national average.
I don't have any classes, nothing.
So you've been coming to school and doing what?
Nothing.
Corruption. I believe that's the heart. It's been going on for 30 years.
Why are there no textbooks, no workbooks, no curriculum guides?
Hempstead High School on Long Island is one of the lowest graduation rates in the nation, and it is about to enter what is called receivership.
And that means it has 1 year to turn around all that failure.
We are not going to do business as usual, as they used to be here in Hempstead High School.
An esteemed educator known for fixing struggling New York City schools is ready to roll up his sleeves at one of the worst performing school districts on Long Island, and there's opposition.
Hasidic Jew is not somebody you're going to find, in Hempstead, and the children will be like my children.
Who negotiated the contract of the superintendent?
You should let the superintendent answer some questions, because you don't want to hear anything anybody else to say.
It's going to end. The corruption will end.
You can't do that. You can't do that.
The effort.
You can't do that.
The effort to repeal.
Good morning, everyone.
A new school year and a new start in Hempstead, Long Island.
I want to welcome everyone back. Welcome back.
Where teachers and staff gathered to meet their newly hired superintendent, Dr. Shimon Warenker. A deeply religious educator with a record of turning around urban schools, brought in to transform a deeply troubled suburban public school system, one of the worst performing in America.
Our children are hurting, and they need a lot of help.
Warenker, the latest leader in a revolving door of fired and hired administrators. No one lasting very long in a school district where good intentions often dissolve into chaos.
I think it's only right before we vote on this that we receive the full report. That's right. Before we vote on it. So, Madam Vice President, would you like to pull it, or do you want me to pull it?
I'm not pulling it.
Well, I'm pulling it. Did you just call me stupid?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Oh, okay, I just want to make sure.
I said the behavior is stupid.
Infighting by elected trustees who run the district, paralyzing progress for decades. Frequent clashes on display in public.
You just stated Dr. Warenker asked this question.
One of the questions is the
Dr.
same
Warenker,
one that
I will
was
ask you this question.
It's time for civilized demonstrations. They had one goal in mind, and that was to rip this district apart.
Yes!
That is the agenda that have brought in the new leadership. It's time for us to wake up.
All right now you talk about civilized people, and you're talking about we want to work together. We are not doing that. And it's time for us to start working together. And anytime you sit here, you shut up. Anytime you sit here and you're talking about disrespect, I have never seen anything so disrespectful in my life.
If you notice, there are a few changes. We don't have anyone up on the days. We're all one. You need to feel empowered, and you need to feel inspired just as much as children need it. I think what the school district requires are two basic things. One is a lot of love. I think the children, the adults may not have felt that love. And love is a unifying force, meaning it's a sense of a community. There's a divide, and folk need to feel that they're joined in common purpose for the children.
Love, a simple enough recipe for success, and yet not enough to change student outcomes in Hempstead. For decades, the school district has languished, graduating just a fraction of its senior class, 50% in a good year.
How we talk to our children has a tremendous impact at every level. And it can empower and inspire. Why? Because we're here to make this a better world. That's why you joined this profession. That's why you work at Hempstead. We're here to make this a better world. This is our mission in Hempstead. We're going to empower, we're going to inspire, and we're going to make this a better world. All of us. I'm not going to make any assumptions that I know everything, which I don't. But what I do know, I will share. And when I don't know, I will ask. From my experience, transformative work takes about 4 years. But I believe it can be done. With the support of God Almighty, I think we're going to do okay.
He came in with a powerhouse resume as a reformer, a Harvard doctorate in education, a stint as a U.S. Army intelligence officer, a record of turning around some of the most violent New York City schools. His original model of education creates teams of teachers and rewards the most successful with higher pay.
I know there are a lot of concerns here. There's a lot of fear. I want you to lose that fear. I want you to be yourself. I want you to be happy and confident walking into the schools. To notice the kind of vision I'm bringing about empowerment and inspiration. How do you do that? Well, it begins through contract. None of you have a contract right now, and it's outrageous.
Not on his resume, but written all over his message, his roots, the son of a labor organizer, and his faith. As a young man, Waronker converted to Judaism, joining the ultra-Orthodox Hasidic Lubavitcher sect.
Notice I'm not a very tall, big, imposing human being. I'm a short Jew. And yet, I've been given some tough assignments in my life. And I didn't do it by carrying a huge stick or hurting people or getting rid of people. No, first is to support, provide empathy, be humble, and take courageous stands when I need to. All of you have a great year. God bless you.
It was an odd fit to lead a school district that's almost all Black and Hispanic, and yet Waronker was selected in the district's first ever nationwide search, narrowly voted in by a sharply divided school board, where the power struggle and ethnic divide is often very loud and contentious.
We cannot keep this conversation back and forth. The superintendent created 5 committees, and this is the behavior that doesn't let us work together. This is the example that we should not be putting on students.
What I'm seeing is really just I just never imagined it to be like this. I want to know why this is happening. Everybody here on the board is here for us, for the students, to help the community, and you can't agree between each other. I want to know why that is. If you can't agree with each other, then how are you going to help us, the students?
This is the seed that you plant. The state and everybody else, that Hempstead School District is the worst. You know, all of this nonsense has got to stop. It has got to stop.
He's an esteemed educator known for fixing struggling New York City schools, and he's ready to roll up his sleeves at one of the worst performing districts on Long Island.
But he's facing opposition.
The board majority took the liberty to sort of kind of silence the community. This is going to be the new superintendent, and you have no say.
I don't have the proof that his program that he's trying to bring towards Hempstead, which is the New American Initiatives, has been a success in the city schools. You have to understand that this is a suburban area, so I don't want to feel like our district that I'm a graduate of is the guinea pig for an experiment. Our kids deserve better, and again, to be frank, to be honest, he may not be here pretty soon.
Opponents rallied against his selection before he even got started.
The kids in Hempstead had been suffering for decades. And I've had experience in turning around schools, in school communities, and a very successful experience. And I think I could make a difference. ¿Cómo está, señora? Buenos días.
He also came to Hempstead with a not-so-secret weapon in a district where more than a third of the 8,000 students are just learning to speak English.
Shimon Warren, ¿cómo están? No puedo darle la mano solo a los hombres.
Born in Chile, Warrenker's native language is Spanish.
So I've got 2 rules. You know what the first rule is? No? Do whatever will make your parents proud. Hagan lo que van a hacer a sus padres orgullosos. Okay? Rule number 2. Don't do what will not make them proud.
His plan was to make a plan, a 4-year strategy.
The only way we can come up with a plan of action is if we listen to the community and hear what teachers, parents, students are saying about the school and the school district. And this way we get the information so that we can make an analysis, create priorities, and create a strategic plan.
Beginning with a personal inspection of every school.
When I came to do their visit, they had all sorts of garbage on top of the lockers. How many superintendents had actually walked the buildings and inspected the classrooms, the toilets, faucets, everything? He said, none, you're the first one.
Many of them crumbling. Warrenker's walkthrough revealed leaks, neglect, decay, and overcrowding, made worse by a flood of recent immigrants. But 1,600 students were exiled to moldy and at times vermin-infested portable classrooms used for decades.
The nearby middle school shows outward signs of wear, has no auditorium, and a shocking turnover rate for teachers. It's a school where roughly 80% of the 8th graders failed to meet state standards in 1999 tests.
High dropout rates and absenteeism, deteriorating buildings, 2 were just forced to close, consistently low academic performances.
Even an accurate head count had eluded past administrators.
I'll be willing to bet if you asked them what is the exact attendance in Hempstead right now, they couldn't tell you.
I want to count. Okay, get a head count. Literally, and get a visual, all right? On exactly how many children we have.
So had student class schedules and transcripts.
This next story brings new meaning to the phrase missing the mark. Grades for hundreds of Long Island high school students were never recorded.
The book is missing with all of our transcripts, and that most of our grades are missing too.
And I'm missing classes, like I don't have an English class.
I'm actually missing English 12 and Earth Science.
For the past 4 years, I've had a messed up schedule. So right now, I only have 1 class.
So far you have 1 class? What does that mean?
They've only scheduled me 1 class for the next first semester.
What's your class that you're scheduled for?
Gym.
Security was also wanting.
The first 2 days were quiet. The 3rd day, we already had a gang initiation. The very next school day, we had a shooting at the back gate. And, you know, this is only week 1. We didn't have enough security aides to cover all areas of the building. The camera system was outdated. The footage was grainy. We had a number of cameras that were down.
One thing to possibly look at is maybe upgrading our surveillance cameras, like where they're located.
Yeah.
And which ones are working.
We have $9 million sitting, waiting for us to use them to do technological upgrades.
Funding grants for long overdue improvements had gone untapped for lack of follow-up for years. Dysfunction often made news.
The public institution responsible for posting this summer reading list with a slew of errors is Hempstead Public Schools. There are more than 30 misspellings, misnomers, and grammatical errors. It's debatable, but perhaps the worst mistake on the list is in regards to F. Scott Fitzgerald's classic, The Great Gatsby. It's listed as The Great Gypsy.
Warnker recruited 2 new principals.
I don't think anything could have prepared me for just how challenging Hempstead is. Pretty much anybody that I spoke to when I said that I was considering Hempstead, first it was kind of people cringed, you know, like why would you go to Hempstead, haven't you read the stories and heard about the dysfunction, the chaos? I believe each of us has a calling, and I've always been drawn to serve where most needed, and there was no clearer need in the immediate area than Hempstead School District.
And at the middle school?
I was a middle school principal in the South Bronx. I was about 2 miles away from Dr. Warnker and turned one of the most failing schools in the city around to a top performing school in a matter of 2.5 years.
I think you're going to see change in the district. I think that the children are going to get the materials that they need, that the teachers are going to get the professional development that has been so lacking.
Many of those teachers scared into silence, they say, for years.
The first time in years that we were asked about what we wanted, what did we need in order to make sure the children were successful. No other superintendent in the district had ever asked the teachers anything about what was happening in the district. Hope, a chance for a change.
They put his credentials. I said, oh, this is good. This is good. Okay, right. New York City? All right. Well, this is some good stuff. Harvard? Wow. He could bring some good stuff to the school. I'm happy about that. For me, that's what I see in a person, what they can bring. I don't care if he's Jewish, if he's orange, if he's green, if he's black, if he's Puerto Rican, whatever he is.
And then Warnker set his sights on long-rumored corruption, asking a leading forensic audit firm to look at how a more than $200 million budget was being spent.
One of the things that the Hempstead has been known for is a lot of corruption. And this is one area in which we want to bring forensic auditors and make sure that we root out that corruption so that the money is actually going to the children.
Have you found any evidence yourself of that yet?
So far there appears to be evidence, but those investigations are ongoing.
It's really sad. It's really sad, but the mission of the board is to protect the well-being of the students, the taxpayers. This may not be used for too long.
Hempstead Public Schools is the largest employer in Hempstead. And in some cases it's been used in a way as an employment agency and not necessarily as an educational institution. Again, the focus has not been making sure that the children have a great education, although everyone will say that that is their focus. But when you see the facts on the ground, it's obvious that it's not.
And it wasn't just suspected financial sleight of hand. Academic numbers were also in doubt. District leaders admitted to fudging grades and promised to stop after a 2014 state review found failing grades were routinely rounded up so students would artificially pass.
The grades of more than 1,200 Hempstead High School students were altered during the 2012-2013 school year.
But I heard there was stories of grade tampering, teachers taking Regents exams home to change answers and bringing them back the next day, weapons being collected but not reported, students not being held accountable.
Oh, it's still happening. There's pressure to change grades, especially for seniors, to make sure that the graduation rate is higher than it was in the year prior. We are asked by administrators to change the grades directly.
Even though they have clearly a failing grade.
Correct. They can't do simple things like read, follow instructions, do basic math, addition, subtraction. Forget about multiplication. I'm talking about high school 9 through 12th graders.
What's the message about why you're pressured to do this?
To improve the graduation rate and to just get the kids out of the school. We are pushed as educators to get everyone through. Yeah.
Just pass them.
Just pass them.
Good morning, good morning.
So is this mission impossible?
Good morning. I don't think anything is impossible. Is it challenging? I would say yes, it is very challenging. I would say it's even more challenging when the community feels divided. Whether you like me or not, my success is the children's success.
But instead of a clear path to this success, reformers were stepping into a cauldron of opposing forces.
Let me be clear. I am a member of this board. The superintendent does not direct the board. We hired him. And this back and forth is not good for a relation matter. So I'm not going to sit here and argue with you. And I actually came to meet and discuss. But please, when you're talking to me, be mindful that you're talking to a board member, one who oversees you. This is your first time being a superintendent, I believe? So the board, which consists of 5 members, and please do not interrupt me.
And this is your first time being a board member too?
Hold up, wait a minute.
Okay,
wait a minute.
I think
wait a
we
minute.
have to continue.
Wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, because I would like to go on the record. I would like to go on the record, 8:25 p.m., the superintendent of schools just made a comment to me, trustee, in my official capacity, that this is my first time being a school board member. And before I say something that may get me in trouble, just know that that type of activity and behavior from my superintendent is not warranted and will not be accepted.
Insubordination. And we pay your salary.
And I didn't say insubordination, but that's what I believe it is. So, though it may be my first time being a school board member, best believe it won't be my last time. It's your first time being a superintendent, and your actions will determine what will come in the future.
Watch yourself.
Politics on the 5-member school board was notoriously vicious and fractured, with tensions stoked by the growing Latino majority in the community. The split reflected in seesawing power on the 5-member elected board that was hard to follow, with costly legal sparring between opposing camps. While one majority hired Shimon Warrenker, soon after a different faction won control. But before the changeover would take place, Warrenker's supporters on the board ousted opposing trustee Lamont Johnson for allegedly breaking board rules in an election. His removal kept Warrenker supporters in control of district policies and purse strings, but launched open war.
This is the meeting of the board. You don't get the right to direct what happens here.
So Hempstead for Hempstead is a local coalition of parents, it's concerned parents, educators, Hempstead staff, past and present, and just local advocates for, either people that had children that went to Hempstead School District and see some changes they're not happy with.
So unhappy with new school leadership, the grassroots group Hempstead for Hempstead hired this law firm to lobby and speak publicly for them. The group's founder, often speaking for himself, loudly at school board meetings.
This is still America, and the First Amendment gives me that right.
Thomas Parsley is a convicted Level 3 registered sex offender and former Hempstead School Board trustee, a fixture on a landscape blotted with bitter infighting for more than a decade. Court records reveal he also faced welfare fraud charges, but pled guilty to falsifying business records. Despite a criminal record, Parsley regularly calls the shots from the audience at school board meetings.
Their goal is to really send a loud message to Albany about their displeasure with what happened with the now majority school board, and how they feel like the election and the results of that election were really hijacked. And since then, it has just been utter chaos.
You know what? This board
stinks. You really don't want to hear what the people have to say.
And now, with a front row seat, retired educator Dr. Jack Beerworth, assigned to Hempstead as a so-called distinguished educator in a highly unusual move by the New York State Education Commissioner to pull the district out of its downward spiral. His $30,000 a month job to conduct an intensive assessment of the chronically troubled district, to be the eyes and ears of the state. Beerworth would take it all in, as Warrenker was taking it on the chin. The district's decades of neglect was now his to answer to.
We have teachers here who basically are here for a paycheck. Don't give a flying about educating the students in their classroom. And what's being done to reduce the class size. Across the hall, there may be 32.
It's killing our students. They're not graduating. If they do, they're going to college and coming back in 1 year.
I have to look over my shoulder every 2 seconds in the hallway, like, this person gonna touch me? Like, who wants to live in constant fear? I don't want to live in fear.
The equipment is falling apart. I honestly don't have a saxophone to play.
Our football field is a mess. Our bleachers are falling apart literally. We have poles and planks that are falling off, and it's embarrassing for me as a student. Water is dripping, it's a mess. How am I supposed to learn in an environment where my cloud is already overcrowded and I have a ceiling that's leaking yellow? I'm scared of rats and all types of animals and rodents running around.
I just want to say I'm as outraged as you are over this. I'm telling you, this is a high priority, and I saw what you're saying, and I felt the outrage that you have. And we're going to need to prioritize in how we spend our resources, because there are so many areas of the district that are in that kind of disrepair. And it didn't happen over a period of a month or 2 months. It's been happening over many years and decades. But it's time to change it.
I too want to know what the plan is. We can't get our community together, but yet we hold a meeting on Sunday when people are in church and enjoying their families.
The Sunday listening tour didn't help.
Randy is one of the most powerful women in the United States of America. She represents over 1.7 million workers.
Shimon said to me, okay, when is the first day you can actually spend a couple of hours? And this was the first day. Now, was Sunday? Look, my partner's a rabbi. And I know you don't ever want to mess with church or synagogue. So it's a terrible day.
3:30 on a Sunday. Warrenker's Blue Ribbon transition team was supposed to help draft his 4-year plan, but Weingarten spoke to an audience of mostly empty seats.
He created these amazing schools in New York City where they're completely different than many other schools. They cost a lot more money, and kids in those schools are thriving, and teachers love it. I know that if we can help people create a trust and a sense of shared community, that we can do this in Hempstead.
Shimon is a real, I think, national treasure. A primary and secondary education is the heartbeat of the country. Doing that well, most everything else is going to fall into place. If you're not, the whole society has extremely serious problems. You have to have real degrees or real graduation, having really gone to class, having really learned. You can't do it by fiddling with statistics.
Hempstead has had a history for close to 60 years, and we need a way out. And gathering the best minds who are coming to lend their support and expertise, this is what this district needs.
Warrenker's $50,000 trip to Harvard and Hofstra University to train staff and board members in mediation and leadership skills didn't go over well either.
And who paid for Harvard? That money could have went to the students. Who paid for Harvard? Who paid for those mediations in Hofstra? I don't need mediation because I was elected. Okay?
This is the perfect example of not cooperating.
And we can pay for room and board, but we can't make sure we don't have asbestos and mold in our buildings, heat in our schools, a proper track.
Yeah, we pay for
Don't get on your soapbox, because if you really want to go there, we fire a principal and bring in a new principal on day one.
The high school principal, Waronker, replaced with Stephen Strawn, suspected of manipulating academic numbers and vastly underreporting student weapons confiscated. Allegations Strawn vehemently denied. Hempstead for Hempstead was now issuing a flurry of press releases via the private lobbying firm, blasting Waronker and pushing for Strawn's return.
Why not give someone who was doing an excellent job a steady increase, and all the state records show that, the school moving in a positive direction? Why, whenever there's a step in a positive direction, the carpets are ripped right underneath from the school's feet? And that's when the school and Hempstead for Hempstead is saying enough is enough. We need someone in here who's dedicated. We need someone in here who is going to make changes. We had someone in here that we saw changes. He turned around those